So let's talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is getting a lot of play these days, and with good reason. Initially, I have a good friend who talks about this in a somewhat cynical way, insofar as, okay, we're going to facilitate mindfulness in organizations so they can be more resilient. In other words, they can take on more work and be more productive on behalf of the organization. So it's somewhat of a ruse to have them be more productive and contribute more. Now, obviously, that is a cynical point of view. On the other hand, mindfulness helps us be aware. It helps us prioritize. It helps us set boundaries and say no. It's a personal health activity. It's about truly self-care. So at the end of it, we're in this situation with remote work, the proliferation of data. And, how do we use mindfulness in very intentional, productive ways? So I want to explore that a little bit and then bring on our guest, Luke Kreinberg, to discuss this in more detail. So the essence of mindfulness to me in relation to evidence-based decision-making is rooted in this idea, is that we have analytics and AI all over the place now, and it creates reports, dashboards, tools, things on your wrist, your phone, that sometimes create anxiety, and sometimes they elevate confidence. What they do is create visibility and can be confusing. So we have this volume, velocity, and variety of data, which is captured in this notion of big data, which is not a term that's often used now, although it was very prevalent 5-6 years ago. But ultimately, we have all this stuff going into our heads that creates confusion potentially. And how can we alleviate that confusion and actually make it useful? Because here's the challenge. This data, this insight doesn't come in nice wrappers. Oftentimes we're getting one piece of insight, we get another piece of insight. So maybe we have something on ourselves. Maybe we're using workplace analytics, my analytics from Microsoft Office 365. Maybe we get some insight from our team and our organization. Maybe we get some insight from the external market and what's happening with our organization. So all this stuff, and how do we actually put it together and create a coherent, confidence-inspiring narrative? That is a challenge. We can no longer rely on dashboards and these tools just to do it ourselves. We have to acknowledge that we need to apply our brains to craft this narrative as to what it means. And we also have to have the discipline and fortitude to say, that's not helping, and I'm going to push that away. So where I wanted to land with this is something that's been very powerful to me, and something that was introduced to me by a longtime friend and colleague, Anna Buslink, and Luke Kreinberg, who is going to join us in a second. And I have talked about this over the years as well, is, are we clear with our intentions? So as a customer of analytics, are we a leader, even an individual? What is our intention, and what's the most appropriate response to achieve our intention? Is the data that we're bringing to the fore, are the insights that we are seeking actually helping us achieve our intention? I'm going to leave that question outstanding, and we'll explore that with Luke when we come back. What I would say is, if we see this in a very clear way for ourselves, if we create the space to really be clear on the intentions, then the data and information and insight that we're going to seek is going to become more clear. Often people take what I would call a data-centric or technology-centric approach, and they try and find a home for the insight being generated, and that might not be aligned with the intention. So again, we'll talk about that in a minute, and we'll take a short break. We'll be back with Luke Kreinberg.